The world's best poker players have earned tens of millions of dollars in winnings. And here's the interesting fact. They did it mostly by not playing. In fact, proper poker playing means that you fold about 80% of the time. That's right, you win by not playing. And that's because most poker hands that you get have really bad statistical odds of winning. And here's the key. The same rule applies to negotiations. People think that winning in negotiations requires negotiating. But in my career, I've seen so many people think this and then rush in unprepared, which basically amounts to gambling with a losing hand. So stick around, I'll show you why winning in negotiation often happens outside of the negotiating table. Let's start. Hi everyone, this is Nadav, business school professor. Welcome to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest mistakes people make in negotiations. Like in poker, most people lose because they play every single hand. So let's break it down. In poker, we know all the cards that are available in the deck, and we know the cards that we are dealt, and we have some sense of the cards that our competitors are dealt. That means that we can make a pretty educated guess about the probability of winning each hand. Not 100% certain, but pretty educated. And if we're skilled enough to do that in our heads, we'll know when we should fold and when we should continue playing and raising the stakes. Unfortunately, negotiation is not quite so clear. The cards in the deck are not as limited or well known as in poker. But the principle remains. If we can gather enough information about our hand and other people's hands, we will be able to make an educated guess about whether we should be negotiating or not, whether we can win or not. Now, this is important. Unlike poker, where the cards are set, in negotiations, we can continuously improve our position. That's called our BATNA. That's the best alternative to negotiated agreement. In any given moment, we can take our BATNA as set and then go to the other person and negotiate with them for what we want. Or alternatively, we can work to improve our BATNA and negotiate later when our BATNA is better. Our BATNA is really our hand. Weak BATNA is the same as having 7-2 offsuit. Really strong BATNA is the same as pocket aces. It's clear to see which BATNA makes it easier to win in a negotiation. If we have a weak BATNA, we should fold and walk away. If we have a strong BATNA, we should continue playing to win. So let me tell you a quick story from my own life to see how this works. Years ago, I was in the market for a used car, something just a notch above a hoopty. This was before I studied negotiations in any length. So I did what I thought was the right thing. I started negotiating. I negotiated with used car salesmen. I negotiated with private car sellers. I spent hours upon hours on the phone haggling with dozens of people and meeting them in person. I tried all kinds of tactics that I heard about, like lowballing and countering and acting hard to get. You name it. I thought I was doing the right thing. I did end up with an okay deal at the end, but man, was that exhausting. Meanwhile, my close buddy at the time was also car shopping. And I took one look at what he was doing and I thought he was an absolute lazy bum. He barely negotiated at all. He didn't call anyone, he didn't spend hours on the phone negotiating, didn't visit anybody in person, didn't try any of the cool tactics that I tried. Instead, he spent his time preparing. He was researching market values on sites like Kelley Blue Book. He was getting pre-approved for financing for multiple lenders. He was interviewing car mechanics for their true thoughts about different car brands and even lining them up for car inspections when he needed it. He also talked to people who used to be car salesmen to get a sense of what he could and couldn't negotiate for. In other words, he spent his time improving his BATNA and preparing rather than negotiating. When he finally decided to negotiate with someone, his BATNA was ironclad. He knew exactly what the car he was negotiating for was worth, and he wouldn't pay a penny more. The salesman he was talking to tried all kinds of tricks on him, but it didn't matter because my buddy had a clear idea of his BATNA. And by the way, he scored a better car than I did and a better price than I did, all the while negotiating only a fraction of the time that I did. So this is lesson learned. Be heavy on prep and light on the actual negotiation. This is not just an anecdote. All the research finds that having a strong BATNA leads to better outcomes than having a weak BATNA. And even better outcomes than having no BATNA, no matter how well or poorly you negotiate. In the MBA course that I teach, we sometimes negotiate over a simulated scholarship offer. We have students paired up with each other. one of them representing the role of a person who is seeking a scholarship, and the other representing the role of the head of a university who is offering a scholarship. And they negotiate over the amount of the scholarship for the student. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the student, we give them different BATNAs. To some of our students, we give really strong BATNAs, and to some of them, we give really weak BATNAs. And it turns out that no matter how good of a negotiator you were at the table, even if you did all the right things that negotiation theory says that you should do, you still did worse on average with a bad BATNA compared to somebody who did none of the right things but had a good BATNA. So think about it this way. The person who's applying for a job with an outside offer of $80,000 a year is probably going to negotiate better than somebody with an outside offer of $60,000 a year. So what's the real skill here? The real skill is knowing when not to negotiate. Just like in poker, if your BATNA sucks, there's no need for you to step into the negotiating table. Here are 3 tactics to make it happen. Let's apply them to salary negotiation since it's a classic high-stakes game. First, you have to articulate what your BATNA is. You'd be amazed at how many people I've seen go into a negotiation, even a very serious one, without knowing what their alternative is. That's not good. You should know the stakes before every negotiation. Second tip, gather intel without tipping your cards. For salary negotiations, this means networking with insiders in the company to the extent that you have access to them. This means consulting LinkedIn for people with a similar job title as you and trying to figure out how much generally they're making. This means checking sites like Glassdoor and levels.fyi that have salary benchmarks. The more you investigate and the more you research, you'd be flipping the odds in your favor. Suddenly, you would know the company's constraints better and better, so you would come with a much more informed ask about your salary. Third tip, you want to audit your BATNA ruthlessly even before starting the conversation. In a salary negotiation, that means updating your resume, applying to other jobs quietly and getting a sense of interest there, and getting at least one competing offer. That's the holy grail. My friend did this with his used car. He didn't show up empty-handed, and that made him a very strong negotiator. Fourth, you want to practice the habit of declining offers without offending the other person. Most negotiators assume that you haven't prepared, and so they will tend to lowball you. That means that you have to decline bad offers for you, but you have to do it in a way that doesn't insult them and motivates them to come back with a higher offer. If their offer is meh and your BATNA is strong, you want to politely say, thanks, but based on my research and my other opportunities, I need X amount of dollars to make this work. It's nothing against you personally, it's just the way the numbers work. No need to bluff, no need to be nice just to preserve their dignity. Just decline their offer and explain your refusal with your preparation. Going back to the used car experience, my buddy actually walked away from 2 deals early on, but one of those sellers came back and sweetened the offer, and so my friend actually bought the car from him. This wouldn't have happened if my friend was a jerk about declining his offer. So the bottom line is the key to winning in negotiations is sometimes not negotiating, but rather waiting so that your preparation can bear fruit and give you the value that you need to win. So next time a negotiation pops up for you, ask yourself, do I have a premium hand? Or should I fold and wait for a next one? If you're not sure, that's a sign that probably more preparation will be a good idea before negotiating. I've trained thousands of negotiators out there. If this video resonated, hit the like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified when I post additional videos like this. Thanks so much. See you next time.